Hello, I'm George Reeder with Rovner Products. I'm here to talk about our ligatures and some other products you may not be aware of. In 1974, Phil Rovner, who was an engineer and musician, came up with an idea for how to hold the reed onto the mouthpiece. And it more or less revolutionized his way to play, which then allowed others to enjoy those same features. So, quick history, 1974, the Dark was created and patented and started out with a single screw system, which allowed it to very easily adjust to any mouthpiece. From there, he created some ligatures that were variations on theme. The Light, the Mark III, and then in the mid-90s came the Eddie Daniels, which ultimately became a new product called the Versa. Then in the late, say 2008 through 10, came a whole series of ligatures. They were called the next generation because there were new ideas, new technology, and new ways of making ligatures. So out of that was the Star Series, the Legacy, the Van Gogh, the Platinum, and then after a number of years came the Platinum Gold and the LGX. Now, just a very quick update on who I am and what happened. In the mid-90s, I became the general manager of Rovner Products, but for a very tiny point in time, and it was too young of an organization, 20 years old then, to support me as overhead. So I moved on, and the company continued to develop. When the financial crisis hit, my wife and I, Lynn, we came in as consultants, and that's what helped create this new level of ligatures because Phil was supported both in marketing and in the creation of these new products. And we had a number of products that came from that. Then my wife and I, the torch was passed to us in 2014. We continued that innovation and came out with two new ligatures, the Platinum Gold and the LGX. So that's kind of the short and sweet, and we've continued to innovate. I'd like to talk about the ligatures specifically now, with the first one being the Dark. In 1974, it was created, and it is still the most loved ligature that we have. 50-some years later, it's amazing. It has gone through improvements because we at Rovner continuously innovate and make things better. So, what are the features of the Dark? You can't break it. It doesn't wear out. It's dark, mildly covered, and is preferred by many different types of folks. There are people in community bands, marching bands, starters, professionals. It doesn't matter. It works in any genre. It's very good in the school system because it's priced right, and it helps the students have more playable reeds, and they're getting a dark tone when they're in a concert band setting. So that's typically the preferred method. Followed by a variation of the Dark was the Light. And the Light removes the material. Here it is. Has some material removed. Typically, why do people prefer this? They like the way it feels or sounds. The Dark might be a little too covered for them, but the Light gives them a little more zing or presence. Same with band directors. It's really a matter of preference. From that came the Mark III. Now the Mark III, again, is a variation of the Dark as a generalist, and it has more textile. Oh, I stepped on it, but look, it's still great. It has a double fold of textile. It's giving it a little more boldness and depth of tone. Again, a variation, still the same single screw. There have been new developments in these over the years, but Mark III, really great. From that came the Eddie Daniels, which is now the Versa. And the Versa, in its long form, is versatility. So it allows you to cover and uncover the cradle. It also has inserts, thick and thin, that you can slide in and out or not need to use at all. It all depends on you. These are all what I would term nuances. And so for the more developed player or discriminating, it's giving them the ability that they can control how it's behaving or sounding for them. Now, this was adopted by the concert world, the classical world early on, and they fell in love with it. So internationally, it's our most preferred ligature for those discerning pros and passionates. It's comfortable, it's silky, so those long legato pieces are very smooth and easily. The funny word to use for the Versa is comfortable, and we don't necessarily use musical terms because the experience isn't always musical. It's can't explain it. Someone says, "Oh, it's so comfortable." To me, what it means is they put it on and they get to play. They don't have to think about it. It transitions from whatever piece they're playing, and they love it. And then when they're home or when they're in the confines of really dialing things in, they can adjust it with these micro changes. The Versa. Then came these new series, the Star Series in 2008 and 9. That was revolutionary in the Rovner products because it had a crimped pin. So the Versa, Star Series, very simple, but an interesting ligature. It's our most resonant ligature. Resonant is providing a somatic experience. What it means is that the individual is experiencing the sound more. They feel it. It's somatic. Now that's great for a new player because as they're learning to play, instead of sound just traveling out of the saxophone or clarinet, it's enveloping them. And they're feeling the music, so they're going to be more likely to enjoy it and get better intonation and want to play more often. But it's not just for beginners. Very high-end players use it on their super expensive mouthpieces, and OEMs like it because it's inexpensive, but does a great job of allowing the player to feel what that mouthpiece can do. Simple, Star Series. And we move on to the Versa X. Now this is, to me, the next go-to ligature, but we've begun to dial in what the ligatures do. And so now they're specialists. So the Versa X is somewhat similar to the Versa, where you can expose the cradle, but the cradle now is stacked metal plates. And this is giving more of a dichotomy between when you expose the cradle or when you reveal the cradle. It is our darkest, most focused when the cradle is covered. And then you will emphasize the upper partials by exposing the cradle. Now, who might use that? I would say in any high school, it's great because it allows them to adapt to the needs. If they're in concert band and they want that dark sound, they can do that by covering. If they're on the marching band, they need to be heard more, so they need to emphasize the upper partials where they can cut through. Typically, the jazz players prefer the exposed cradle, gives them a little more versatility, and concert players prefer it with the cradle covered. Doesn't mean that it's a law, it just means that's the preferred. We suggest that you try these things out. Versa X. We've also created new patents, and there are ligatures called mass-loaded ligatures and resonating ribs. And these are the things that are adding more of hearing the player, because they're allowing more sound to come out. And we get to the Van Gogh. It's quite an unusual piece, or as I believe in Europe they may say Van Gogh. I do a pretty terrible job of that. So it's about 30% larger than our other ligatures. It is a textile ligature, but unlike all of the others, the main points of contact are on the very edges of the reed. So when this was first in development, I thought this would gobble up the sound, and was quite surprised to find out that it exploded in sound. It is the ligature that has the most gain, which means with less effort, you get more volume. I call it tonal neutral because it's not really making it darker or brighter or cutting. It's honoring what is the generating system. You, the mouthpiece, and the reed. So it's just giving it a lot of sound. This is excellent for low blow instruments because you don't have as much effort. So for the bass clarinet and bigger, same for the baritone sax, that it's great because it gives more sound out of them, but with not a lot of effort. And we use it adaptively for folks that have maybe some lung issues, or they've gotten up in age and it's just a little harder to play. So we use the Van Gogh to help them play and enjoy music still. Then came something unusual, and that is the metal ligature. Here it is. It's called the Platinum, or Rovner Bling, as some people call it. It's quite beautiful. And when Phil developed this, he said, some people say, I will never use a ligature that's not metal. So he said, well, I'm going to give them a metal ligature. But it did so much more than that. People get this for the tonal clarity. Beautiful bell-like tone. Slightly dark, and it's giving you more articulation. Well, what does that mean? Is that you can play faster. And when you do, that there's more of a space between the notes. So articulation is increased, and the altissimo is better supported than our other ligatures. So that is the Platinum. From there came the Platinum Gold a couple of years later. And this is pure gold. But it's just not colored. It has unique properties that are sometimes similar to the Platinum, but then it has its own unique set of things that were a bit surprising to me, happily. The first is that you're getting a darker sound, which I expected, but now it has this level of warmth that it is emotional, and you feel it more. So it has two properties that are what I find unique. One is like the Bose line array or other systems line array. You're getting sound that's tending to disperse through the room more instead of being so focused. And then it's also like radiant energy. So there's more sound throughout the room, but it attaches itself to the person. You feel it. It's an amazing experience. It's personal and it's warm. The Platinum Gold. It's really great. Finally, most recently in June of 2024, we introduced the LGX, which is a ligature that came from the Legacy. It has large pins, and it's designed for extreme performance. You can push it, the headroom is incredible. You can push it harder than you thought you could without the note breaking. So extreme environments, whatever type of playing, it could be classical, it could be jazz, it could be marching band. If you've got to give it everything you have, the LGX is going to give you that. When you play it harder, it becomes clearer. And I don't know how that happened, but I was pretty happy to discover that. So the harder you play it, the more focused and clearer it becomes. LGX. So that's it for our Rovner ligatures. I'd like to tell you a little bit about our barrel. And here is the Rovner barrel. Has some interesting icons on it. The most interesting thing is that the center, which you may or may not be able to see here, is rectangular, not circular. And there's a lot of technical stuff to explain what it does, but we'll provide you with a sheet that gets into that and you can read about it yourself. I call it Rovner magic. And it's making it more linear, but the ability to make it, again, a personal experience. And how do you do that? You do it by physically rotating the orientation of the rectangle. And it has different characteristics, both in playing and in sound. So we had one fellow that was extremely good out of Puerto Rico. He had a clarinet that was old. He put the barrel on it. He jumped up in joy and said, "It feels like a new clarinet." So, Rovner barrel, worth trying. Comes in sizes from 62 to 68. It was originally designed for two groups, new players that have problems with intonation because we can make them smaller, and doublers that play mostly saxophone but have to play the clarinet. And when they do, they tend to be flat, and we help them get up to the proper pitch. But we have folks that are in symphonies that like it as well for its other characteristics of being able to be personalized. Finally, a unique thing, we call it the Mouthpiece Manager. You can put 12 mouthpieces, but what makes it kind of cool is there are actually two of them. And they nest very nicely. So folks that like to display, you can bundle these up, put your product out, and they don't take up a lot of room. They're lightweight, easy to clean. For the person at home that has lots of mouthpieces, it gives you something stable to put them on and play around. Mouthpiece Manager. Rovner Products, continuing innovation to this day. Thank you.